My mother-in-law knocked my 4-year-old daughter off her bicycle, put her foot on her neck. Then my husband said, "Mom, press harder." My name is Dennis. My husband's name is Joel. My mother-in-law's name is Victoria. And my 4-year-old daughter's name is Grace. What I am going to tell today is not just a story of a terrible incident. This is the story of hatred that started from the day my daughter was born. And the most frightening thing is that Grace understood at just 4 years old that her own father would never give her the love she deserved. When Grace was born, I was the happiest woman in the world. When I took her in my arms for the first time, she was so small that her whole body fit against my chest. I was crying looking at her. But Joel stood silent. He looked at Grace, and then looked at my face, and said, "Why is she so dark?" I kept looking at him for a few moments. I couldn't believe that a father could talk about skin color instead of love when seeing his newborn daughter for the first time. I said, "Joel, she is our daughter." He didn't answer. That day I ignored his tone. I convinced myself that maybe he was tired. Maybe it would take time for him to feel like a father. But as time passed, I began to understand the truth. He didn't hate children. He had a problem with my daughter. Joel would often say, "I don't like kids. They keep making the house dirty all the time." If Grace spread her toys on the floor, he would get angry. If she ran laughing around the house, he would make her quiet. If she went to him asking for something, he would often ignore her. In the beginning, Grace was only 3 years old. Then she became 4 years old. And during this time she started understanding her father's behavior. When she saw Joel entering the house, she would immediately lower her voice. She would stop playing. Sometimes she would come and sit near me, and often she would go straight to her room. It seemed as if she knew that being happy while Joel was in the house was not safe. The thing that hurt me the most was something else. When Grace saw her father or her grandmother, she didn't ask them for anything. Not a toy. Not clothes. Not any sweet thing. Not a demand to go outside. She never ran toward Joel. When he came home, she was 4 years old, but she had already learned that no gift was coming from her father. A child shouldn't have to understand this at such a young age. But Grace understood. When Joel was at home, the whole house would become unusually quiet. It felt as if no child lived in that house. And I would keep watching my daughter sitting quietly in her room. Joel was completely different with his sister Karen. On Karen's son's 18th birthday, Joel gave him a $2 million luxury car as a gift. That car was parked outside the house. Karen's son was beside himself with joy. Joel was standing with him, taking pictures, laughing, congratulating him. I saw Grace there too. She was standing at a distance, silent. She didn't say a word about the car. She didn't ask her father for anything. She came straight to me and grabbed my hand. I looked at her face. She probably already knew that no such thing was coming for her. Then Joel looked at Grace and said, "Your daughter's life is nothing to be proud of." Something inside me broke. I said, "Joel, she is only 4 years old. You cannot talk to her like this." My mother-in-law Victoria immediately spoke up. "Your sister-in-law never made such drama." I said, "What has Grace done? She doesn't even ask anything from you two." Victoria didn't answer my question. She just looked at Grace once and walked to the other side. That day one thing became very clear to me. In this house there was $1 million car for Karen's son, but there was no love for Grace. A few days later Victoria told me in clear words, "Do not take your daughter to any wedding." I asked, "Why?" He said, "Not to any function either. Not to any event either. There is no need to take her anywhere." I said in surprise, "She is my daughter." Victoria said, "I know. But there is no need to take her everywhere." I understood the meaning of her words. She didn't want to see Grace in front of the family members. She wanted my daughter to stay inside the house. Stay quiet. And not be visible to anyone. I knew what was behind all this. Grace's Skin color. Joel had a problem with his daughter's dark skin color. And Victoria never tried to stop him. Rather, many times she reinforced this very thinking. Grace never complained. She loved me and stayed close to me. But one day she placed a small wish in front of me. We were outside when she saw her aunt's son riding a bike. She kept watching him for a long time. Then holding my finger she said, "Mama, can I also get a small bike?" I bent down and looked into her eyes. "Do you want a tricycle?" She nodded her head. "Yes, Mama. A very small one." I knew that Joel would never give money for it. But I wanted to fulfill this small wish of my daughter. I said, "This month when my salary comes, Mama will buy you a tricycle from her salary." Grace immediately asked, "Pinky promise?" I took her hand in my hand. "Pinky promise." This time she smiled. A simple tricycle gave her as much happiness as if I had given her the most valuable thing in the world. When my salary came, I bought nothing for myself. I went straight and brought a small tricycle for Grace. It was only $82. When I brought it home, Grace's eyes lit up. She was asking again and again, "Mama, is this really mine? Did Papa give money for my tricycle?" I laughed and said, "Yes, my sweet child. Yours." She took the tricycle and went outside. She was pedaling slowly. Then she increased her speed a little. Her laughter was echoing throughout the yard. I was standing at the door watching her. At that moment I felt that maybe my daughter had finally gotten that small happiness she had been wishing for so long. But just a few moments later Victoria came outside. Her eyes fell on the tricycle. She asked in a harsh tone, "Who bought this?" I said, "I did." "With whose money?" "From my salary." Anger came over her face. She moved toward Grace. When Grace saw her coming, she immediately stopped the tricycle. She didn't say anything. Maybe she had realized that grandmother was not happy. Victoria suddenly knocked her down from the tricycle and broke her tricycle very badly. Grace fell to the ground. I screamed and rushed toward her. But what happened in the next moment took the life out of my body. Victoria put her foot on my 4-year-old daughter's neck. "Grace." My scream echoed through the entire house. Victoria looked at me and said, "You are wasting my son's money." I immediately replied, "I bought this with my salary." She said angrily, "Stop wasting money." Grace started crying. I was rushing toward her. Just then Joel came there. When I looked at him for a moment I felt that maybe now he would save his daughter. But Joel didn't do what I had hoped. He looked at his mother and said in extreme anger with such a loud voice that I haven't forgotten that voice to this day, "Mom, press harder." My heart sank. She replied, "She should know what her place is in this house." I looked at Grace. She was drenched in tears. Then Joel said, "Nothing more than a maid." I don't know where so much strength came into me at that moment. I pushed Victoria back and lifted Grace into my arms. She clung to my chest. Her body was trembling. I ran my hand through her hair. "Mama is here." Then I looked at Joel. "You let your mother put her foot on your 4-year-old daughter's neck. Then you told her to press harder." Joel shouted angrily, "You are wasting my money on her." I said, "I bought this tricycle with my salary." He said, "Your money is mine." I looked at him in disbelief. He added, "And only I have a right to it, not your daughter." I said, "This is your daughter." Joel looked at Grace with hatred and said, "I cannot live with a black daughter like this." That moment was decisive for me. I gave him a clear answer. "Whoever does not want to live with me and my daughter can leave this house." Joel said mockingly, "You will kick me out of the house?" I said, "Yes. Because this house isn't yours at all." He became silent. I told him the truth. This house belongs to my brother. He moved to England himself and gave us this house to live in. You didn't buy this house. You were living here only because of me. Then I looked at Victoria. And you leave this house today too. Find another place for yourself. She looked at me furiously. But this time I didn't step back. I didn't want to see my daughter under anyone's feet again. Joel left the house. Victoria left too. And after that day, for the first time, the silence that used to fall when Joel arrived ended in my house. Grace began to laugh openly again. She would bring out her toys in the house, come out of the room, play in the yard. And now she didn't need to hide in her room when someone came home. I never let her feel that there was something wrong with her. The wrong people were those who considered a 4-year-old child less because of her skin color. Today it has been full 7 months since that incident. In these 7 months, neither Joel ever contacted me nor did I contact him. He didn't contact Grace either. I didn't look for him either. Grace doesn't ask about him like before. Maybe at 4 years old she had already understood the truth about her father that I understood very late. She didn't ask him for anything because she already knew she wouldn't get anything. She didn't run toward him when he came because she knew there was no love there. She used to hide in her room because she felt safe there. 7 months later, one day I came home with a new tricycle in my hands. After that terrifying day, the first tricycle wasn't just a toy for me anymore. It had become a memory that I didn't want to connect with Grace's childhood. That is why I brought a new tricycle for her. I called her outside. Grace saw the tricycle and said, "Mama, what if Grandma comes again?" She sat on it. He pedaled. Slowly at first. Then fast. Then she started riding around the yard laughing. After a while she turned toward me and shouted, "Mama, I'm riding it myself." I smiled and replied, "Yes, Grace. You are moving forward yourself." She started laughing again. I kept watching her. 7 months ago, a small tricycle had revealed the true thinking of my husband and mother-in-law in front of me. Joel could give a $2 million luxury car for his sister's son's 18th birthday. He could spend millions on his sister's son. But he could not bear the money for a tricycle for my 4-year-old daughter. His problem was not with money. His problem was with Grace. And Grace had understood this at just 4 years old. I had told my daughter one thing that day. You don't need to beg for your place in anyone's house. Even today it is true. Grace never begged her father for a gift. Never ran toward him to get love. Never threw a tantrum to get something from her grandmother. She stayed away silently. But now she doesn't need to stay quiet. Now she laughs in her home, plays, rides her bike, and doesn't let anyone snatch her happiness. I watched Grace take another lap on her tricycle. She turned to look at me and smiled. And for the first time I felt that maybe after that terrifying day we have truly started a new life. Joel had thought he could claim his right over my money, my daughter, and my house. But he forgot one thing. Grace was my daughter, not an expense. Her skin color was not her worth. Her innocence was no one's property. And her life was not at the mercy of any father's or grandmother's hatred. I watched Grace go far. She was laughing on her new tricycle. There was no fear on her face that used to come as soon as Joel entered the house. She was free. And I knew that now no one could tell her what her place was. Because her place was not under anyone's feet. Her place was with her mother in her own home, and moving forward on her own terms.
Thanks for watching. Your next smile start with another story. Our story on this channel are completely fictional.